So I really wanted to help you, with studying. This is going to be how to study. This information comes from hundreds of years of studying how people learn. This is really important because so many students waste their time cramming for an exam 12 hours before the exam, all pulling all-nighter. You're familiar with how people study. This is very inefficient, and the information that you're going to remember will leave you in hours, within hours. If you studied like that and I asked you to take the exam a week later, you would probably fail. So this is when you study, when you cram the night before an exam, it's like cramming information into the RAM on your computer, which may be 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes, whereas your hard drive is like a terabyte. So there's much more room for information, and that will go into long-term memory. Your hard drive is permanent memory. Your RAM is random access memory. It's very temporary. So the difference between putting that information into short-term memory and long-term memory is vast. You want this information for long-term memory because you're going into healthcare and you need to remember this information. So here's rule number 1. Study for only 10 minutes at a time. That may seem counterintuitive to you. But the point is that your brain naturally learns in very short snippets. Try to remember back when you were learning how to tie your shoes. I can actually remember my mother showing me taking the strings, laying one down, putting the other one over, taking the string underneath, pulling it tight, making a bow. You know how it goes. And I said to myself, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to learn how to do this. And every day I would practice. But I'd get tired because my fingers were small and they're uncoordinated. So, lo and behold, however long later, weeks or months, I could do it with my eyes closed. So, you want to study 10 minutes at a time. When you're learning information, the way to do it is to attach it to old information in your brain. When you attach it to old information, then it has more neural connections to it. So that's why storytelling works so well in teaching. If you tell a story, stories are attached to everything. You have a million stories in your head, and one of those stories will attach to the story that you're studying. And you can make a story out of every physiological concept and every anatomical concept. So you want to pick a concept and you want to visualize it. Take, for example, the first video I made on what is a human being. That's a beautiful example of something that you can study for 10 minutes and visualize. Visualize those little cells, and they are starving, and the only way they can get nutrients, food and oxygen, is through osmosis or diffusion, because they have water around them, and their membrane that bounds them is the gateway for these things to move in and out. Okay? So the capillary bed washes the plasma over them, right? Like a tide pool. Why are tide pools so clear, and why are they so rich in life? Because the ocean is bringing in food and taking out their waste products. It's the perfect analogy to what's happening in a capillary bed. So go through it like a story, even if you have to make up your own story. I'll try to give you stories, but see if you can make up your own stories, because it will attach better to the information that's already in your brain. Once you study 10 minutes, stop. Don't be seduced into going any farther. You can study something different, you can go to a different concept, but stop there. It's best to take at least an hour break. During that hour, you'll be thinking about that lesson. So break up every chapter into chunks that you can put into a 10-minute story, study it really hard, and then forget about it. Then the next day you think about it and you'll only need 1 minute or 2 minutes. And as you do this, you'll build up a repertoire of all of these different chunks. Okay? And that's how to study.